KwaZulu-Natal emergency services are on high alert with more rain forecast for the province. The South African Weather Services has issued a disruptive rain for tomorrow and Friday. Heavy rain is likely to lead to flash flooding in areas such as Alfred, Duma municipality, Ladysmith and Ulundi, among other areas. Authorities have urged residents to stay indoors if possible and avoid crossing rivers. In April last year, a large part of the province was left reeling from major floods that claimed hundreds of lives. Let's get an update now from the province's CoGTA MEC, SiHle Zikalala. Very good evening to you, MEC. Thank you so much for your time. You and I spoke last week sometime, really getting an update on the situation on the ground. What has changed since we last spoke?
No, thanks a lot. We have survived those rains last week. But the alert that we have received is quite serious. It is serious in the sense that for all coastal areas, and coastal areas include Uku, eThekwini, iLembe, Kingzechwayo, and Umkhanyakude. But this time it also includes Umkungundlovu district. All of those areas have been categorized as areas that might suffer heavy rains that are at level 9. And level 9 is the heavy rain that rains in a short period like we saw in April. Now it's important that we caution and send a serious message to all people in these areas that I've mentioned. But in inland, also, the alert is that we will have the rain at a level of level 5, which is better, half of what you will expect along the coast. And we would want to issue a warning and request people to cooperate that in all areas we must avoid driving when it's raining. We must avoid crossing rivers, especially low-lying bridges. People who are in low-lying areas must look, when it begins to rain, they must evacuate into higher areas.
And with that alert that could spell disaster for people in low-lying areas, what contingency measures have you put in place as a department?
Well, the information we have received compels that we activate the operations now, because the information we receive is what is the forecast telling us. And we have already activated our disaster management center and district centers, district disaster centers. I have also communicated with all district mayors to ensure that they are also on alert and begin to activate councillors as well as ward committees so that we are able to respond and avert any challenge that might happen.
The heavy rains we saw, MEC, in April were deadly. Is there a concern that the magnitude of these rains could lead to deaths?
Yes. We are quite concerned because if the weather forecast indicates that it might rain to level 9, it means it's the same level that we saw in April. And that's why we are so quick to alert people and to request the cooperation from all people of KwaZulu-Natal. I must hasten to thank all people of KwaZulu-Natal, because since then, the cooperation has been improving. When we issue alert, people will quickly respond and they will positively respond and evacuate. Some will even leave their properties. And we thank all of them for that, especially in areas such as Umsunduze. We had heavy rains, but no one passed on because when we issued alert, they listened.
And at the same time, there are still some very important lessons that you learned from the April floods, as some residents are still living in alternative homes that you've provided. Talk to us about those plans and perhaps the plan going forward when it comes to ensuring more temporary homes and areas.
Yes, but I think it is important that we send a message of sympathy to those people who are still living in shelters, because it's not out of the failure of government, but it's the situation out there. And I think it's important that we explain categorically. Firstly, the problem we had with the disaster. Once you say there is a disaster, there must be scientific analysis of the damage that was suffered. Secondly, there must be an application, and that application includes acquiring land. And when, as government, we have worked on all internal processes, one challenge we had was to access land, because most of the land pieces that we identified were privately owned, and it became difficult to get those pieces of land. We're working with speed to ensure that all communities who are in community halls are moved to temporary residential units nearby where they were staying. And we are working on that. We know which community center, which have communities, must move to which area. So we've made a plan, and we believe that by January, February, all will be out of halls, all people will be out of halls to their communities. That is not the end. It is a process, because some will be still in temporary residential units. The Department of Human Settlement is working to ensure that then after that we build houses for all of those people.
And the 2023 academic year could be starting within the next few days. Are there concerns on your end when it comes to children who may be going to school soon that the floods could be a big danger?
Yes, there are concerns, but we believe that by the time schools open, we would have passed this situation. And we believe that we would have advanced in terms of constructing temporary residential units. What I must also emphasize with education, especially schools, we are grateful that all schools that were damaged during floods, we were able to repair those schools, or those that suffered hugely were able to provide temporary classes. And therefore teaching and learning was not disrupted.
And when it comes to the work along the infrastructure repairs, is there a possibility that this dose of flooding could reverse those gains?
It has been so. I can testify to a number of bridges that we built, and in a process while we are constructing, then the rains come back and then we regress. But we believe that we are able now to build better and in a resilient way. And we believe that the infrastructure that is being constructed will withstand any future rainfall, irrespective of how heavy it is. There are also bridges that have not yet been constructed, very few, but those are bridges that we know that they were hugely damaged and they require serious investments. And in that regard, the Department of Transport nationally, working through SiHle, is handling those projects. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you so much. Let's perhaps leave it there for now. CoGTA, MEC and KZN, SiHle Zikalala, speaking to us about the alert that has been issued in the KZN province, of course, warning that parts of the province could experience up to levels 5 to even 9 when it comes to the downpours. Now,